The whole talk of the rapture has been around for years. I mean, it's been around since I was saved in '98. I really, in Bible college, I don't recall hearing too much about it. I don't recall any discussion whatsoever until I got out of Bible college, and I was watching Christian movies. Movies like the Apocalypse trilogy, and all that, and how different teachers like you know what's their names? 1 second, let me think. I can't think of the others, but Jack Van Impe is one, or I should say the late Jack Van Impe. I heard that he recently passed away, and just seeing his programs several times, seeing him and his wife in the Apocalypse trilogy. When I watched it brought me comfort because I was at that position of the pre-trib view to where Jesus can come at any time. And I remember in that view how I was just looking for Jesus to come at any moment. And I was just worried about getting out of here so I wouldn't have to deal with the tribulation. And it made me afraid, just any thoughts of, ever being in the tribulation. So it was sort of like Jesus is going to get me out of here. And, whenever I watched his program, that's basically what I had seen, is that Jesus is coming at any moment. And, I'm not going to argue whether or not which view is which view is true. And if anyone is, new to the whole concept, the tribulation is basically a time when the Antichrist is going to rule. Christians are going to be hunted, and a politician, from what I heard from the pre-trib view, is a politician type person is going to come up, promise peace, and this person will end up being the Antichrist, and they will show, and after 3.5 years they will be killed, and Satan will enter into them, and then he will go after Christians to martyr them. So I'm not really too learned on that, but I would say after 3.5 years the Antichrist will show, and apparently around this time is when the church will be taken up. And that's the pre-trib view. Well, the mid-trib view is Jesus will come in the middle of the tribulation and get the church out of there. And then the post-trib view, where Jesus will come at the end of the tribulation to get his church. And I hear a lot of teachers that speak about the pre-trib view and how that view is correct. There's some that teach about the mid, and then there's some that are for the post-trib view. And, I used to be pre-trib. I used to think that Jesus was coming, to get the church out. But, to be honest, my focus, well, I don't want to get to that yet, but really, anybody that is really following the pre-trib view, they're focused on leaving. And, really looking to get out before the Antichrist comes. That's what their hope is. But honestly, when you focus on getting out, then your focus is off the people that are on earth that may have to deal with it. What, you're looking to get out, so you care nothing for them? You care nothing about what they're going to deal with because you're out of here? You're on your way to heaven, and Jesus is sparing you from that. And really, honestly, I was in that same place to where I honestly thought that. I recall when the Twin Towers were hit by those planes, somehow I thought in my mind that Jesus was going to come back because it was all going to result in a war. And I've seen that in, the apocalypse movies where war is going to break out, and just when it's about to break out, the Antichrist is going to come, stop everything. People are going to think that he's God and stuff like that. So at that time, the remaining family members, I would write them a letter stating, this is what's going to happen. More or less, good luck dealing with it. Jesus is getting me out of here, blah, blah, blah. And my focus was on myself and my selfishness. I wasn't thinking about them. I was thinking about myself. I wasn't thinking, maybe in some part I was caring, trying to lead them to Jesus, through this letter that I sent. And, maybe in that I was showing some care. But when I look back on it now, I just think it's just so selfish. And yeah, people, will deny Christ. They will deny following him or whatever. But that doesn't have to be our position. We need to focus on the people themselves. So when you focus on, getting out of here, getting away from the tribulation, then your focus is off the people that are going to have to deal with it. But basically, the point of this video, I'm not fighting for pre-trib, I'm not fighting for mid or post. I'm not fighting for any view. My focus, more or less, is wanting to get you to focus on what God's will is for your life. Not for you to focus on your job that you go to, whether 5 days or 7 days a week, and then you go to church on Sundays and you're hoping to get out of here when Jesus does come. My focus, more or less, is trying to lead you into looking to Jesus for you to know what his will is for your life. You're not going to know unless you really fully surrender your will to God, give him the driver's seat, and then ask him, Lord, what do you want me to do? What is your will? Lord, I surrender my will to you. I want to go where you want me to go. And so when your focus then is on God's will for your life, you're not going to even be thinking about wanting to get out of here. You're not going to even be thinking about which view is correct or whatever. It doesn't matter. What really matters is the people that are on the earth. Are we being a light to them? Are we being loving? Are we, is our lives really geared to showing people this light and to follow 1 Corinthians chapter 13? Love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast. When we focus on Jesus and his love for us, that changes us. So we need to honestly focus on what Jesus wants us to do. And when we do that, we're not going to be thinking which view is correct. We're going to be like, okay, Jesus can come at any time. I want to be ready. I don't want my life to be focused on this world and what it offers. I want to be focused on what Jesus wants me to do. I want to be focused on his will for my life so that I can hear him say, well done, good and faithful servant. So, my question to you is, do you know God's will for your life? If you don't, if your eyes have been on this world and what people are trying to lead you to do, being financially successful, then in that route you haven't pursued what God wants you. If you haven't heard his voice, then most likely you have heard the enemies or your desires that have led you away from what God wants you to do. So I would just ask that you would surrender your will to God. Find out his will for you. And once you find out his will, your eyes will be focused on what he wants. It will not be focused on getting out of here. If anything, you'll be focused on reaching the lost and being a light to them. So, as you've seen in this video, is that I'm not about, wanting to get out of here. Maybe once that was my thought and my focus, just, waiting for Jesus to come at any moment. Oh, Lord, get me out of here. I don't want to deal with the tribulation. But, it made me weak-willed. In my mind, it was all about escapism, and really it's selfishness, honestly, because you're looking to get out, not caring about anybody else that may have to deal with it. So I really pray that this video had given you a new perspective. Maybe it's something you haven't heard before. And so, really, it's about taking God's position and not the world's position, and not any kind of selfish position. It reminds me of in the book of Joshua when, Joshua faced the angel of the Lord, and he asked him, are you for us or for our enemies? He said, neither. He was about God's way and God's way of doing things. So we as Christians need to be likewise. And, it reminds me also when Jesus, they asked, are you for Caesar or not? Jesus didn't give him an answer. All he said was, give to Caesar what is Caesar's and give to God what is God's. So he took a neutral position. He was about the Father's will, doing what the Father wanted. His purpose in this world was not for comfort or anything that the world offers. His purpose was to die for us so that we could be with him. It was about relationship. And so we as Christians need to focus on such ourselves. And, that's really the position that we need to take. Not any kind of mid, or post-trib view, but, about wanting to do God's will and what his will is for our life. So I'm going to end it here. Thanks for taking the time to watch.